Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Phandom Racers. I am Justin. I'm joined by Amanda, who I have to keep remembering is on this side. Um, and with Halloween being around the corner, we want to do a kind of a spooky show, or at least a monster-themed show. So we're going to talk about one of our favorite shows of all time. It is a masterpiece. I'm sure everyone agrees. We're going to be talking about the Netflix series Dracula, written by some guy named Moffat. I don't remember his. Is it Stephen? Is it Stephen Moffat?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Moffat. Yeah. Just to get into it already, this was not my favorite incarnation of Dracula. There were some issues with that show. We'll cover that a little bit, but there was a couple of things that I liked about it. I think it had a strong start, and it just kind of sputtered out towards the end. How did you feel about it, Amanda? Was it good?
Well, if you call the Hindenburg sputtering out,
Yeah,
that's what it's like. So
I do, as a matter of fact, call it sputtering out.
when I first saw the commercial for it, I was excited because a lot of what was being shown was the first few episodes of it, and it looked very much like how Dracula should be.
Sure.
So I am a big fan of the original novel of Dracula. I also really like the old Bela Lugosi movies.
Mm,
They're not close to what Dracula is, but I still love them. This one was visually close at the very beginning, and almost storyline, like the storyline was almost there, and then it like jumped, and I was like, okay, whatever. They always do this with Dracula. And then it jumped again, and it fell off of a cliff. So
yeah.
I was really happy for a few minutes that I got to see something that I've been wanting to see, which we talked about it in Lovecraft, that you are getting something that represents Lovecraft, even though it's not the same lines or storyline.
Yeah.
You're getting something that visually looks like Lovecraft.
It does.
And
It does it justice. Yeah. The whole.
yeah,
It is a well thought out love letter to my fandom. So,
yeah. Well, my love letter started off real nice, and then the kid got a hold of the crayons
yeah.
and just drew all over him.
Became a Nickelback song at the end. Yeah,
It did.
sure. Um, so just to talk a little bit about what this show is and kind of how it chose to present itself. Um, the whole series starts off in what we talked about this, right? Early 1800s, whenever Dracula is supposed to take place. Starts
Yeah.
off there, and then it moves along for like the first 3 episodes within the same couple of years. By the time you get halfway through the series, I think it is, they decide to do a surprise jump to current era, which is a bold choice. I don't know if I would have done that. Um, Side note: this is the second time we're recording this. The first time we tried, we got cut off right in the middle, and like we couldn't get a good connection going or something like that. So we were having to re-record some of this. I remember that right now just because like the last thing I think I said on that recording was it would have been nice if you did that with Dracula. It would have been nice if they had done that, like in every season you take him a little further down the time, right? Down different centuries. If you wanted to do that, I think first and foremost they should have done an honest to goodness representation of the book. Even if you wanted to change a couple of things about it, fine, but do a decent finally a decent representation of how that book was written. Um, and instead, what we got was, let me start off by telling you about Dracula, and then like halfway through it, I'm gonna think of something else, and then I'm gonna start shooting off that way. And something I had mentioned last time, I have that problem with my sentences. I start talking, and then like I'll think of something else, and I'll be like, oh, and then I'll just like go off on this tangent, and I'll forget about what I was just talking about until I'm at the end of that tangent, and I'm like, wait, why did I start talking? And I don't remember. That's not a good thing. You shouldn't be proud of doing that when you write. It's bad enough that you do that when you talk. You shouldn't do that when you write because you don't have that excuse. And I feel like that's kind of what happened with this story is you started telling you a story and there was some resolution to parts of it, but it didn't finish that story back in 18 whatever. And then Moffat was just like, this way, the future. What if he traveled to the 21st century and he had laser feet? And then you just start like making these like slightly not inappropriate, but like just not things that don't quite fit with Dracula and who he's supposed to be, like that story. Um, Trying to tell it over the span of 200 years instead of just telling it in the span of like the 3 years or whatever that it takes in the I don't know. But
Mhm.
yeah, it doesn't quite translate. How did you feel about it? I know it's not good, but how did you feel about it?
Well, I feel very similar to what you were saying. I think if they did separate the time jumps into different seasons, it would have been more interesting. Maybe they could have fit the 60s and 70s or something in the middle or something like that. But they continued with the original story into the future. And that's what kind of peeves me off. I'm like, if you're going to do it, just do it in the past.
Yeah,
Um, but what you were saying about how he kind of goes off on a tangent somewhere else, Stephen Moffat is known to do that. He, like, don't get me wrong, he has done some of the best, like, single storylines in like Doctor Who. He did Girl in the Fireplace. That was one of my favorites. But he is not good at doing a continuous
yeah,
series. So you see it, he took over as lead writer when Matt Smith became the Doctor. And you always got this continuous, like, in the first few seasons, there was some clue that something was going to happen. Like, oh, that's going to happen. Oh, wow, I can't wait till that happens. And then you go to the next season, and it's like everybody forgot about this storyline. Where's
yeah,
that storyline? And he just keeps doing it, and it drives you insane because you're like, what happened to this storyline? Who are we talking to? I'm so lost. So, like, I remember coming back to, I think, the second season with Matt Smith, and I was so lost. I was like, did I miss an episode?
yeah.
What's going on? No, I just didn't know what was going on. And I think he does that pretty much with everything he's ever done, like Jekyll and Hyde and Sherlock at the end. You're kind of like, what's the point? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it disturbs me. And the moment that it went downhill, I kind of assumed that it was Stephen Moffat. I was like, what is going on? Is this a Stephen Moffat show?
So you didn't know going in that it was.
No,
Wow,
I didn't know.
that's kind of messed up.
I know it is
Yeah,
because if I knew it was him, I'd probably not watch it.
yeah,
So the story starts off a lot like what's in the book Dracula. Stephen Harker, who's a lawyer, he's taking some papers to sign to Count Dracula, who's planning to move to England because I guess he purchased some land there, so he's trying to sign off on these documents. But when he's there, Dracula like keeps him there and kind of doesn't let him leave because he tells Harker like, I need you to like teach me English. I need you to get me ready for living in England. Don't leave. So the whole time, like, Jonathan's pretty much stuck by himself in this giant castle because, I mean, during the day, John was asleep. And then during the night, Harker's like, people are feeding on me. Like, the brides of Dracula are feeding on him and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and they kind of do the same idea, but in the show, they make it more like it's like a mystery almost. Like, how do I get out of this house? It's a puzzle. And it's like the architect left clues and stuff, and then you find out that there's baby vampires, which that was the dumbest thing to me, but whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and they added in this whole thing that it explains something that didn't really need explaining. Dracula, when he sucks the blood of a person, he starts taking on their traits.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, Dracula starts off as like this Romanian kind of old school guy. And then the more blood that he sucks from Jonathan, the more he becomes like this Cockney like jerk.
Yeah, he gets real Cockney.
It's bugging me so much because I the one thing that I kind of really like that's cheesy is the Dracula accent that he's like, bleh.
Yeah, because it's not it's not familiar. I think is why it still kind of works. Like even if you didn't do like the whole, the Count from Sesame Street voice, you can still do like an accent that is just not familiar. And I think the more foreign it sounds, the better. Like the less familiar you are with it, the more intrigue he provides into it.
Mhm.
I, I didn't love that he had like that Cockney. I'm a vampire. He just sounds like a chimney sweep
Isn't
from
it?
Mary Poppins. um, I didn't love that part of it. I will say though that I enjoyed the casting as much as he looked a little bit like Bela Lugosi. He did remind me a little bit of um he had probably the swagger to accompany Dracula that I think you can get away with. Bela Lugosi never had that per se. He just seemed dignified. He was a classy gentleman,
Mhm.
and that's what I expect from Dracula. And this guy was like a slightly different take on the confidence that Dracula would have. It's more of a swagger. It's like almost like a ladies' man, but not necessarily. He's just that guy. And I think
Mhm.
that can work. It's just that the whole Cockney thing was like, okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean, same for me. Like, I agree that he needs to have some sort of like suaveness about him, but in the book, it always seems like he's less suave and more dignified, which I think that's where they got it right in the older things. It's like
Yeah,
he's royalty. He doesn't mix with commoners.
yeah.
So, and that's where I'm kind of like, it's a nice twist, but
Mm.
I don't know. It's just the same type of character that Moffat writes. That's his hero. He's like this witty kind of snarky guy.
Yeah,
So I'm I'm okay with it. Um, but those few episodes are fine. And then you get into like Harker turns into a bride of Dracula, which I guess technically I wouldn't call him a bride, even though the way that he describes it is like, yeah, it's one of his undead, but I would call it more like a ghoul, like how Renfield was in the book.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, but he's calling him like a vampire almost. So I didn't get that from him, like the way that they built that character. But um, yeah, so Harker becomes a bride and is like an undead, and he finds a way to escape the tower and go to this little nunnery, and that's where he's telling the story already. And then the person that's interviewing him is actually the cousin of Van Helsing, Abraham Van Helsing. So this is Agatha?
I think it's Agatha. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Sister Agatha, she's the one that's interviewing him, and she's like totally into the occult, even though she doesn't believe in God. Good reason to be a nun, right?
Yeah. I don't see what else you could be.
But it just goes into this whole thing, and then like Dracula comes to attack the nunnery, and that was the coolest part to me. I don't know about
That was
you,
a
but
good scene. I did like that.
mhm, that was the most Dracula, even though it didn't happen in Dracula,
No.
that was the most Dracula thing. Like, I like it that it wasn't like a werewolf, because he's not a werewolf. He can control wolves,
Mhm.
and he's almost like a parasite for these animals anyways. So
Mhm.
when he's popping out of the wolf, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is perfect.
Yeah.
That's where I enjoyed this scene because it showed how powerful he was.
Yeah.
Um, so he goes over there, he attacks the nunnery. Agatha like plays games with him. This is where I'm like, this is very like Sherlock.
Yeah.
Because they're having a battle of wits in parts where you think there should be action, and
Yeah. He
it's
does. He does enjoy that. He does enjoy showing off that he's a clever boy. He's like, look at the things that I thought of. Pretty nifty. And I'm like, you've got a vampire just trading pithy remarks with a nun. He just killed everybody. Or he could like use people like just. I mean, okay, I came here for a vampire show, not a debate between two snarky people. But okay, sure.
that's like the point where she's like, I do believe in God because vampires. And I'm like, okay, good job. You came to that point.
Yeah.
Um, so after after this back and forth, um, Dracula finds a way into the castle and pretty much eats everyone.
Yeah.
Good job. Except for Agatha, because he likes her and he kidnaps her and he takes her on a boat
Hmm.
where he eats everybody else. I don't remember very much from that episode. I really didn't like it. But
Yeah. So basically, I think in that episode, he takes her on a ship, and it's basically just Clue. Only it's not as fun as Clue because you already know who is killing everybody. And you get to the end of the movie, and basically, I think the ship burns down or something. I don't remember who it is, but somebody burns the ship, and they crash to the bottom of the ocean while Dracula is in his coffin or something like that. And then Dracula breaks out of his coffin, and he's like, "Well, that was a close one." And he swims to the tippy top of the water, and then he gets to land. He's like, I made it to where England is where he was going initially, and helicopters show up, and then black SUVs and cars pull up, and you realize, wow, that's some technology they had back then. And no, he's in current era. And what is it, like MI6, but not MI6? It's like some supernatural
the
division of it.
Harker Foundation.
Whatever. It's whatever. And and that's whenever you do the jump, you realize he was underwater for 100, 200 years, and then they take him in, and they keep him under observation in a glass room, and the story essentially just kind of continues from there with everyone else around him doing stuff, and he's just kind of there in a glass box.
Technically, that's how the story goes in Dracula. Like once you get to England, it focuses on like Arthur and
Mm.
Harker's, and I get that he wanted to update this to the modern era, but it's just so trashy. I just that's there's something a little more delicate about when you were in the 1800s, and I could understand that it's like, oh no, we're saving a woman from the devil
Hmm.
because women can't save themselves. But with this one, like they convince everyone that Lucy is like this perfect girl and everybody loves her and she always gets what she wants, except that she wants to die. Like I didn't understand any of that.
Yeah, I didn't like Lucy.
Mm-mm.
She was too bratty. Um, she was not a likable character. Maybe it also has something to do with the actress. I don't know, but like I don't. It just her character was not particularly written. I didn't enjoy that. But then again, I don't really care for Lucy in any other representation of her. I've only read a little bit of the book, by the way. Cards on the Table. I haven't finished the book. I'm half of it. But I don't really remember Lucy too much from the book because it's been a while. But like the Lucy from like all of the movies and stuff like that, she just seems so too helpless and too demanding of attention. Like just chill out, bro. That's too much for me anyway. That's kind of how I read her character.
So in Dracula, she is like a cautionary tale because she is the main, well, she's not the main woman. She's supposed to be the woman that shows the difference between a pious woman and just a loose woman. 1800s loose woman. Okay? So
Yeah.
she's like really not that bad. It's just she keeps getting suitors and they all want to like propose to her. And she's like, "Oh, I wonder which one I'll pick." Like being all cutesy and stuff.
Hmm.
And um so she does pick finally, but it breaks like other characters' hearts. So how dare you break a 1800s man's heart? So
Mm.
um to go off with a man from Texas.
We're hot, bro. I don't know what you want.
Later done.
I'm just saying.
Um, but she isn't really like she doesn't do anything bad in the story. She just gets tempted. Like,
Hmm.
but that's what Dracula does. He tempts people. They don't
Yeah.
have control over that.
Mhm.
So
He's the
it,
devil. Yeah.
he is the devil. Um, but the way that they made this character is not, and they do it every time because they're trying to make that distinction and they just keep building up on it more and more because they want to show you that difference between here's how the right woman does it and this is how the wrong woman does it. And you got the wrong woman, but there's no Mina in this story, so all we get is a bratty teenager looking like an idiot.
Yeah.
And her like Arthur's, right? Was it Arthur that they showed, or
I don't remember. It might have been Arthur.
I I don't know, the kid in the Boy George hat, right?
Hmm. The
um,
Loverborn kid. Yeah, I don't
yeah, he's just a whiny like I deserve everything because I'm a good boy kind of guy. So
know. Yeah.
and in the end, it's like, why did we even listen to the story? She died.
Yeah.
She's not even undead.
Nope. Yeah. Yeah. So the characters in this show, like, and Van Helsing was fine. Like, I didn't have too much of it. She had her moments of like, hey, I get if you want to include her in the show. Totally cool with that. I'm fine with I'm even fine with them making Van Helsing a lady. There was nothing in the original script that required him to be man. Van Helsing can never because Van Helsing is just knowledge. Van Helsing is just knowing better than to give in to your temptations or what. Um, I didn't like almost everyone else. uh, I didn't care for any of the other human characters really. Like I said, I didn't care for the. I already forgot her name. The girl that we were just
Oh,
talking about,
Lucy.
Lucy. Um, apparently, I didn't care enough to remember her name. I didn't care for that other kid, Arthur, who I think in love with Lucy or something. Like that. And
Hmm.
like he ends up. Spoiler alert, by the way. At the end of the show, he ends up killing her because she becomes kind of undead or burned up or some. I don't know what she is. Um, and like he ends up killing her because she's ugly now or something. I don't know what his reasoning was. But yeah, like the rest of the show was not really that compelling. Uh, the most attached I felt to this show was the first chunk of it, the first 2, 3 episodes, like I said, that take place in the early 1800s, where things are a little bit more interesting. And I don't know if I understand why for me those times are more interesting. I don't think it's just because that's where the book takes place, but I think it's like you said, it's something to that there's a little bit more magic in the air where there's not cell phones and there's not cars and not like all of this modern comforts. There's so much like uncertainty back then, and it gives everything just like a heightened danger. I think is probably what it is because they don't understand medicine. If you're dying from like lack of blood, they think you have too much, and they start taking blood from you. They start giving you cocaine or something like that. They don't know what they're doing back then, and that's part of like well, there's so much of just like shooting in the dark with like all of these kinds of mysteries that you could run into with Dracula. We were talking about this at the beginning. I'm getting pretty good fan service from Lovecraft Country because they are, and that one it doesn't really matter too much about time frame you're working with. The magic of that particular genre is that it can really happen in the future, it can happen in the past. It's just impending doom and existential crises at every corner, and that's all that genre really is. Um, with Dracula, it really does play very well to people who are kind of living at a specific time where um, virtue always called into question like at every moment, and you have this devil character who's just there to entice people to doing what they they're doing their best not to. That's kind of given to their baser needs or their what they their darker desires, I guess, and that's really what he represents. All that to say, I didn't care for it. It was okay at some points, but if I had to give it a score, I'll give it like a I'm probably going to give it like a 5 or a 4 or something like that. It's not very high for me. I don't know if I'll watch it again. If I do watch it again, it's going to be like the first episode, maybe the second episode for like a couple of scenes, and then like, all right, that's going to be. I'm done. That's enough for me. Where does it land for you?
I'm same kind of wavelength with you. I'm gonna give it a 4 though. Like I'm not gonna do 5
Yeah.
because I do want to appreciate the beginning.
Hmm.
Like, and whoever did the set design, whoever did the costumes, the special effects, thank you. It
Hmm.
was awesome in those first few episodes.
Yeah.
But come on, guys. We have to have better writers. Why? We're in 2020. Help us. But I don't know about you, but it just feels like everything that I have ever loved has kind of gone down the toilet with new writing.
Yeah. I don't know. I take solace in knowing that there will always be more shows, and there'll always be something out there to look forward to, even if it's not good. I enjoyed looking forward. I need to go watch something good to make me feel happy again. So thanks for joining us, everybody. That was our take on Dracula, Netflix. They are doing a second season, so was maybe the second season will be worse, and then we'll have another episode. We'll get another episode out of it, and we'll make more jokes. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great night. Happy Halloween. I'm not sure when this one's gonna air. This episode's gonna air, but enjoy Halloween anyway. Uh, I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Please, please let The Witcher be better than the book.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, right?
We'll see.
Yeah, we could do a Witcher episode. That was a good show.
Yeah, everybody comment. Do you want to watch The Witcher?
I'll watch The Witcher again. That Henry Cavill's all right.
With the white wig on.
I think that about covers Dracula. Is there anything else you want to add to it? Besides better writing?
Kids, you're gonna be disappointed in life. Just try.
Yeah.
Just try to make the most out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Make jokes like we do.
Develop coping mechanisms.